Thanks for joining us on This Week in Health IT. This is a solution showcase. My name is Bill Russell, former healthcare CIO for a 16-hospital system and the creator of This Week in Health IT, a channel dedicated to keeping health IT staff current and engaged. All right, today we are joined by Marty, Momdjian, and we are returning guest, Josh Peacock, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. We're going to talk the Epic IRIS migration and what opportunities exist for health systems as they look at this. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, this should be fun. It's also it's late in the day, so we're all tired. We've just done a lot of other stuff, so this should be good. I want you guys to feel free to really go at it and talk about this and explore this topic. Marty and I actually just did a webinar on this. We got a lot of questions, so people are very interested in this topic. There's a lot of back and forth going on, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Let's start with just a broad question, which is, what is this? What's Epic doing? What's the opportunity? What are health systems? Why should the health systems have this be top of mind right now? Marty, you want to start with this, and then we'll kick the next one to Josh?
Yeah. So historically, Epic's core database was always running on cache. That's been the core database engine for a very long time. InterSystems released the next generation, database platform, which is InterSystems IRIS. What Epic is doing is essentially helping customers migrate to the new platform, because cache is, going to get deprecated sooner or later. They're also giving customers the opportunity to change their platform licensing without a upfront capital investment. So historically, if I was running on Power or if I was running on Linux and I needed to change platforms, there was always a, license reissuing cost associated with it. For the next few years, they are actually removing that cost to give healthcare systems the opportunity to move to platform independent or platform specific licensing to essentially future-proof their upgrade and future platform roadmap for if they want to run on Power or if they want to run on IBM if they want to run IBM Power or if they want to run on Linux and Switch platforms, there won't be cost associated with it if they go platform independent licensing.
Wow. All right. So platform independence is one of the biggest things, and there's licensing benefits as well. So let's go down this. It really does represent when you talk of platform independence, for the first time, I'm not boxed in, right? So I'm not boxed in by a weird financial model that doesn't allow me to go to a platform. And I'm also not boxed in because now I can literally look at my data center and say, what makes the most sense for me? So Josh, as you are working with clients on this and talking through it, what do you see as the biggest benefits and opportunities? We have platform independence, we have licensing. How are health systems approaching this?
Well, I think because of the platform independence option and the ability to kind of take that switch without the penalty, we've been recommending that that's the direction people go, just for flexibility now or in the future. The other thing, I think, based on what we're seeing too, ECP used to almost be kind of a nasty thing to say. Enterprise Cache Protocol is multi-tier, kind of spread users out, and they also have utility servers for kind of spreading the load as these environments get so large. Well, it's been kind of recognized that that's going to be a regular thing for most organizations that have any size going forward. And the other thing is they moved to IRIS. That's an inherently multi-server license, which allows ECP to be deployed without another additional charge incurred. So I think being able to switch to a different platform and that native ability to run multi-server without an additional cost has really opened up the doors for really any size organization to go that direction without incurring additional costs associated with it, licensing wise.
One of the questions we got in the webinar, which I think is interesting because it speaks to what you just talked about, is how does it scale better than ECP? Does it does it still require us to manually sync the CPS files with the remote scripts? We got a lot of very technical questions in the webinar. I was really fascinated. But, how does this scale better than ECP?
Well, I think the unfortunate part of that is it's probably going to be very similar in the way that we've traditionally managed ECP and dealt with it. Some of the techniques and technologies that InterSystems has in from a IRIS perspective, where whether or not that's being able to scale in a different way across more servers, those really aren't available to us when we're talking about an operational database for Epic. If you were developing your own thing or some other technologies that, like an Ansible or something like that, they might be able to take advantage of that. But really the way the data structure sits in Epic, I think we'll see things being, more of the same, at least for the near future.
I think the biggest advantage is essentially, what is Epic going to do with IRIS? Because it's still very new with the upgrades. And with a virtualized data center, if you move to an x86 platform, it's additional virtual servers, right? You're treating it as a virtual server just like everything else. And it's throwing more memory and CPU depending on how much you need to scale and when you need to scale for your standard database server and your ECP servers.
The other thing I think that it opens up to, and this kind of goes to the multi-platform, not that on AIX we can't use some of the tools that are out there, but there's some really mainstream tools. One, for example, is Ansible that you can use to manage an environment, keep everything very concise and the same. And that is one thing we've deployed at a couple clients where we've been able to essentially throw down a base image of Red Hat in the environment. And then from there, Ansible will take care of rolling out all the operating system changes to support Epic's requirements, along with the organization's, Active Directory integration, user authentic, the way that the users access menus and all those sorts of things. And you can make that super consistent across all of your servers. And then whenever you just need to add some ECP servers into the mix, it just becomes another one of the pool that you're managing in the same manner.
All right, we'll get back to our show in just a minute. We have a lot of good stuff after the break. Just wanted to share with you a message from our sponsors, Sirius Healthcare, VMware, and Intel.
The new year is a great time to reflect on the past and look ahead to the future, to figure out what was done well and what can be improved as we move forward. For Epic customers, 2021 presents a unique opportunity to reevaluate their current EHR and clinical application infrastructures and determine if now is the time to take advantage of the latest data management software platform, InterSystems IRIS. As the next-generation data platform, IRIS excels at delivering a modern, consistent, and reliable experience to clinicians and patients. However, at Sirius, we know that migrating or upgrading to a new platform presents its own set of challenges, such as managing current and future costs, switching from SMP to ECP when migrating platforms, or determining the best services or manufacturer for your future platform. When it comes to managing costs, Sirius Healthcare experts can help you build out a modern infrastructure that will include a flexible upgrade cycle, along with a predictable cost model to ensure that you're aware of and prepared for any future upgrade costs. We also know that switching from an SMP to an ECP architecture can be overwhelming. The Sirius Healthcare team is fully capable of offering guidance and support while building out your new architecture, minimizing the impact on your IT team and clinical users. When exploring disaster recovery options for a new platform, we know you want the best technology available while controlling costs. By utilizing a hybrid cloud model, our experts can help you discover the perfect mix of services and technologies to do just that. A significant benefit of the IRIS platform is its compatibility with many Intel manufacturers such as Cisco, Dell, HP, and Lenovo. So if you're switching from Power to Linux, the Sirius Healthcare team can help plan a migration with a manufacturer you're most familiar with while developing a roadmap to manage your new platform for the long haul. Deciding to upgrade and selecting a platform license type by the end of 2021 doesn't have to be a daunting task. If you'd like assistance choosing the best available options, technologies, and architecture to fit your organization, contact Sirius Healthcare today.
All right, when I get smart people like yourself on the show, I like to role play a little bit. And I'm going to go back into the CIO role. You guys are going to be CTOs. And what we're going to first talk about is how I should be thinking about this. right? What are some aspects I should be looking at? So I have too much variability in my data center. I still have too many systems, too much software. I have some challenges I need to deal with. I need to deal with 21st century cures, API management, those kinds of things. I've got to think through architecture. Am I going to be utilizing cloud or not utilizing cloud? I got capital expenses, operating expenses. If I'm making you dizzy yet, I've got to be able to leverage all these new technologies. I got to, NLP, AI, machine learning. I've got to make better connections to my consumers and be able to build platforms and those kind of things. All right, so those are all the things from a CIO perspective that I'm thinking about. And that's only half of what I'm thinking about during a pandemic, but those are the things I'm thinking about. This is an opportunity, right? You're giving me platform independence. You're giving me flexibility. I can now, consolidate? Am I going to be able to consolidate around certain platforms? Am I going to be able to reduce costs? What am I going to be able to do? I'm the CIO asking you two, my CTO, so you could both formulate an answer to that of how should I be doing this and what is the opportunity for us?
Honestly, I think it's looking at what is your technical team skill set, right? What is my technical team skill set? What platform can they manage better? And then what is my current data center hardware? And
so you're probably gonna assume it's VMware, since 98% of my systems are going to be running on VMware at this point. So I want that to be a platform. But the hardware itself, I can really go in any direction at this point, can't I?
You can. I think it also, part of the hardware is what's my compute, what's my storage, what's my network. Have I standardized on Cisco UCS? Am I running Fabric Interconnect? And can I go buy a Cisco, 4-socket solution that's going to suffice for the operational database that I can manage the same exact way, besides minor specifics around locking down the system for access for my operational database that I can for the rest of my Epic and clinical application infrastructure. I think the biggest part of all that is coming up with a cost model. So most organizations, if you were to ask me to come back to you and say, hey, Bill, my CIO asked me to price this out for 3 years, the first thing I'm going to do is not just look at the hardware pricing, but figure out what the soft costs are, find out what the licensing prices are, depending on what platform I'm running, figure out VMware licensing, right? Figure out Red Hat licensing, figure out support for 3 years, and then extend that out to 5 years and figure out, based off what you as a CIO is telling me, if we're going to onboard any additional users, if we're going to go live with new clinics or acquire any hospitals, to come back to you with a TCO and say, hey, here is the actual, if we were to onboard 1,000 users or 5,000 users after going through a migration, based off whichever platform we're selecting, I can give you a cost for the next 3 to 5 years, including a refresh and adding an additional capacity based off number of users, and hopefully project that out to 10 years. Another part of it is skill set. This is a very good opportunity for me to come to you and say, hey, look, we're short-staffed, right? We're doing a lot with very little people, and we need to sharpen our skill set a little bit. Let's send some of the Epic support staff to training, not just for VMware, but go to Epic training, go to VMware training, figure out if you're changing platforms. Like Josh mentioned, is this a good time to implement Ansible? Is that a skill set that we should learn to expand out beyond just the operational database to our other Red Hat servers? Consolidation-wise, platform consolidation, right? When am I refreshing my hardware for my operational database? When am I refreshing my hardware for Hyperspace and Citrix and VMware Horizon? When am I refreshing my hardware for everything else application server-wise? Can I get into a predictable refresh model where I can come to you and say, here's the cost for updating 33% of my clinical application infrastructure hardware, including Epic, every year, to make that a palatable cost? Or are we going to get stuck in this format where I knock on your door every 3 years and say, hey, we got to do a hardware refresh. We have 2 months. We're out of capacity. I need X amount of dollars, and we need to do it in the next 3 months.
All right, Josh, I want you to give me an answer to that as well. Next, we're going to go into the actual migration, by the way. So this is where we're really going to nerd out. And I'm going to ask you what it's going to take for me to do this migration to a new platform. In fact, I'll hit some of these questions we got in the webinar because they're very specific, and I think it's really interesting. But Josh, what am I going to the CEO and saying, look, we just have to do this. Epic has told us to do it. Or is there, we heard a couple things there. We heard consolidation of skills. We heard consolidation of equipment. We heard opportunity for, improved training and those kind of things. Am I going to be able to, one of Iris's things is it's cloud deployable. So AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Azure. I mean, am I going to be able to do some interesting things there from an availability and other standpoint?
Well, I guess I got to be the negative Nancy on these, but for a couple things, the cloud piece is really all dictated on what the public clouds are able to give us for performance today. And
right, so I can't move that transactional data store to a cloud, too far away because I have too much latency.
Well, even just the number of storage IOPS that they can pull off for the operational database of Epic, we're looking at somewhere probably 8,000 to 10,000 concurrent users as your max size client that can fit in a public cloud today. That's that's increasing every day. But so there's limitations there that we have to be careful of. The consolidation of platforms within the organization that you're supporting, the vendors that you're working with, the support locations that you're contacting, those are all things that are good benefits of moving to that consolidated compute platform and VMware and those pieces. All make a lot of sense to do that, I think. I don't know that it gets us away from, the way we manage some of these as special systems, and they're still highly important. The central, system for all of Epic, for example, runs on that core database, right? So you can still pretty much point to the server that as Epic production in the data center type of thing. So it's not abstracting it so far away that it's, not quote unquote a special server that we take a lot of extra care in. So there's a lot of things that we have to do that are kind of particular to those environments versus just standard Windows compute or Linux normal compute servers that are sitting in the data center. But I really think that consolidation of Red Hat skills and getting down into VMware and just kind of reducing the number of different things that people have to keep track of and understand, and support contracts have to be out there, and all that stuff is some massive savings and streamlines the operations.
Well, thanks, Josh. Thanks for pulling me back down to the earth. I was really hopeful here that we were going to see a public cloud version of Epic sometime in the very near future. Actually, we'll get to futures in a little bit. I'm going to come back to that. Let's talk about the migration. So, there's a lot of things to take into account, but a lot of it has to do with the data. And we got a bunch of questions on, will an IRIS database mirror with a cache database, allowing us, shortened downtime? That was one of the questions. We had questions on migrating, what does the data conversion from Power AIX to Linux Red Hat look like? Give us an idea of what the process is for moving one to the other and some of the considerations.
I can kick that one off. So the way I look at it for the most part is it's almost like a stand-up of a new Epic environment. So we basically stand up as much as we can, all the Red Hat environments ready to go, just as if we were going into a net new Epic go live. And that allows us to make sure that we have all the user access and all those things defined as necessary. And then the real piece that comes is building your first mirror, and IRIS and cache can mirror together. So that's a good thing. But that'll allow us to mirror across to a Linux-based version of our database. And then from there, we'd be able to start taking snapshots or clones, whatever you have for storage technology on the back end, and we can use those to create our SUP, TAP, other environments that are needed that are full size in the environment. And there is a conversion, so there is a process of us copying that data over initially, running through a conversion from big endian to little endian, and that gets us to the point where we can start mirroring. And then from that point, it really becomes a bit of a strategy game with your environment teams to kind of schedule when you can move environments to the new servers and make those final cutovers. And then finally, essentially your prod cutover is, I almost kind of try to tell people to treat it like a DR failover. But it's basically, you're going through the same steps. You're promoting your mirror to a production and demoting your current production mirror down to a DR mirror member. And if things were to go completely south too, the good news is you're able to revert back in a similar fashion just by switching out which one's the primary mirror member. So it really, for me, it's not really any different in a lot of cases that how we've used strategies to migrate from physical server to physical server in the Power world for the last number of years as well for that operational database. And timing is really driven. I feel like you can set up that core Linux environment in a pretty short amount of time. It's really driven by the environment team and getting those downtime scheduled to cut environments, not a lot of other technical effort in that mix.
So again, questioning from the CIO perspective, give me an idea on, so how much testing are we going to do? How much of that testing can be automated? You know, I mean, what does that look? I mean, you're talking about the most sizable system we have in here. There's a lot of data elements moving from one to another. Are we going to have to test every aspect of Beaker and every aspect of every module out there?
The big things to really hit on are things like printing, making sure that those things are able to work, but a full Beaker, probably not, because as long as, again, some work goes in ahead of time to make sure that just like in a DR switch, or if we were switching from one server to the other, like most organizations have had to do in the last 5 years, we've had to kind of abstract away, right? Epic production is known by a DNS alias typically. It's one of the things that Epic likes to do too. So we can repoint users and other endpoints to that alias, which allows them to communicate without having to go directly to like a known IP address. And that allows a lot of flexibility to make that migration with a lot of effort. Most of the time, I don't see organizations probably having to do a lot more testing than what we would do during a switch out from server to server, just because Epic has done so much work with Linux in the past few years, performance testing and everything. We've seen a lot of switches happen without significant issue performance-wise, or new things crop up because we're on Linux versus another OS.
That's fantastic. So,
Yeah,
go ahead, Marty.
if you look at the biggest key part is for the end users, the clinicians, and even to an extent the application folks that are supporting the applications like Beaker, right, or ADT, they're going to have the same exact experience. Where there's going to be major differences is going to be for the ECSA team, the LDBA team, the server team that's actually managing the infrastructure and the operational database. Their experience is going to change, and the way that they manage, downtime, standard maintenance is going to be a little different than what it was before. But it should be, if you take your time planning and do a good enough job to run through the migration for your POC test dev environments, document everything, sometimes blow things up, fail back, make sure you really understand how it works. It should be just like a regular downtime for your end users when you do the actual full production cutover.
Is this just like is this any harder than the normal updates we're doing on Epic on a quarterly, or now it seems to be more common to be semi-annual basis? Is this any more complicated than that? I mean, I see from a CIO perspective, I see the opportunity. I mean, I can re-platform. As a we were using their gosh, what was it? Their HIE product and whatnot. It was all built. It's now all built on top of IRIS. The InterSystems platform was all built on top of IRIS, and that was our integration engine, and it was our platform we were using for Ansible. Yeah, we were using it for APIs and all sorts of other stuff. So there's a lot of benefits and opportunities there, I would assume. And so I see the opportunity, but is the migration, is the upgrade any more than just the quarterly, normal quarterly that we were used to doing?
I mean, I think that there's risk associated with anything you do, right? But I don't see that this is, I mean, most of these people are taking this on in between an application upgrade or, in parallel to doing their normal quarterly upgrades. I don't see anybody that I've been working with yet, like pausing Epic upgrades or anything to be able to take on this migration. It's just been happening in parallel for the most part. Some of the biggest things from an end user perspective that we see as likely as changes is a lot of people on other technologies had like local users and passwords and maybe synchronized between all the servers. But, as they go to Linux, it's all, single username and password backed by Active Directory type of thing. Maybe Kerberos passing directly in, they're logging in. So there's just some changes like that. And depending on how they've structured their old environments, they might break out into more servers. But at the end of the day, that's really just a mapping for their analysts and those people, not like end clinicians. They're not going to notice any difference. Maybe faster just because they are newer tech, but that would be hopefully the only thing they experience.
Well, that's a number of questions I hear. Is this really going to be faster? Is there going to be any performance improvement, cost reduction, that kind of stuff? But let's talk about what's next. I guess the question from my perspective, again, I'll just go back to this is essentially what IRIS is saying about their own platform. And this was back in 2018. I mean, the reason they came out with this thing was to really take their capabilities to the next level. So it's cloud provisioned. It's an interoperable platform, API management, analytics, and it plugs into a lot of different analytics backends, business intelligence and NLP, AI and machine learning. I mean, and these were not, hey, you do these things in this platform. We are going to connect to the most common systems that are out there. What is the potential? Where's Epic going with this potentially? Again, and all this stuff's going to be forward leaning. This is just your opinion based on your experience, expertise. And as you look out and look at the capabilities that IRIS now gives Epic, what is possible? Where could this potentially go over the next 3, 5, 7 years?
So right now, what Epic is essentially doing is taking what they have for cache for the data structure and the data sets. They're essentially migrating that over to IRIS without any major updates, right? They're treating it as the core database for end users to access. It will be interesting now that Ensemble has transitioned away from being Ensemble and now to part of IRIS, and it's part of IRIS for Health, where from the research that I've done and looking into what InterSystems itself is doing, if you take Epic out of the picture, is they have built a database platform and database management engine and they're trying to push for a truly integrated data system and data platform for healthcare, where portions of your HIE and data exchange are built in. You have advanced analytics that are running on the system, and if Epic takes that and develops against it, I think it's going to create some great innovations. It's also going to take some time because it might involve significant changes to the databases themselves. And Epic does have their Clarity Cogito reporting environment anyway, right? It's what portions of that might move over to the IRIS platform over time. And is it going to be more efficient to run that on IRIS to actually extract additional value out of the data that's sitting there? It'll also be interesting to see what happens to Ensemble. It's still fairly widely adopted and it's out there. Not everybody moved over to CorePoint or another system. What are they going to do when they go to this upgrade? What's going to be different for them, and how is that going to integrate into Epic? And then what's Epic going to do with the platform itself in the next couple of years down the road to the next 10 years? Because cache was around for a very long time. They had significant improvements on how they were using cache, and now they're going to do the same for IRIS. I think it's going to be up to the healthcare systems to get their hands on some of the development capabilities to see what they can do out of the box besides using it as a base database, engine for Epic itself. And if there's going to be other vendors, other healthcare innovative vendors that take IRIS and start developing it out.
Yeah. Josh, where do you think Epic's going?
Well, I think the most near-term things that we'll probably see as benefits is Epic's been doing a lot of work to try to make things easier on the administrators, particularly trying to use Kuiper to do more and more effort even on the operational database side. So I think some of those API-driven benefits might be first exploited in Kuiper to help manage the database through that tool more. And then I think, real-time access to the data because of the fact that we're ETLing out to the other Cogito environments, some more real-time action and activity in the database to get insights, at the point of care or in a quicker, less retroflective way I think is probably where I would see the next couple of things happening more so than anything else, in my point of view.
Interesting. Any changes to how DR? Do you think there's going to be DR new options available?
I don't know. I would like to believe that at some point, from an HA perspective, instead of having single operating system and single storage subsystems and all those sorts of things only being available, in caching and mirroring first brought it in to where you could do synchronous mirroring with a VIP between two servers and two separate storage subsystems underneath. Those things, we do have clients that are using that for their Ansible environments. However, Epic has never really been able to make that jump yet. Maybe Iris will have enough performance gains to allow us to run something like that in a synchronous mirror where they could always take over for each other and have more resiliency built into the environment. I think that would be one of the first things I would see, other than I think DR today will stay fairly similar. Some of the clients that are really drilling it and doing good can fail that environment in 15 minutes or less. So I think that's a fairly good target to shoot for.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate Josh, Marty. I appreciate you guys coming on. If people are interested in talking to you guys more about this, they can reach out to their Sirius rep or hit Sirius Healthcare's healthcare website as well. You can track these guys down, and they can help you with this migration. It's not for the faint of heart. It's I know if I were a CEO, I'd be making phone calls to find people who have done this before and have the experience. It's too critical a move, and quite frankly, I think the opportunity is pretty significant to re-platform. We were constantly looking at the fact that we had 900 applications and we had to support multiple operating systems. All that stuff was a cost to me, and it was hard to manage those things. You had to keep special skill sets around, and this is an opportunity to really reduce those and get much more efficient around that. So, Marty, Josh, thanks for coming on the show. As always, I learned a ton.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
What a great discussion. If you know of someone that might benefit from our channel, from these kinds of discussions, please forward them a note. They can subscribe on our website, thisweekhealth.com, or you can go to wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Google, Overcast. That's what I use, Spotify, Stitcher. We're out there. You can find us. Go ahead and subscribe today, or send a note to someone and have them subscribe. We want to thank our channel sponsors who are investing in our mission to develop the next generation of health IT leaders. Those are VMware, Hillrom, and Starbridge Advisors. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.